So I was raised in the Fraser Valley, which of course is the homeland of the Stalo Nations. Currently, I'm living and working in Sukabakulu. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and beyond that, really question our relationship to the land. And I'm sure that each of us does this in our own way, but I do want to just extend my gratitude to everybody who comes before me and will come after me, who holds the well-being of the land in their heart. I think that's good stuff. So, this was a project that I worked on in a regional geography class last semester, and I thought it was just a really fascinating experience for me. My presentation and the poster that I have upstairs are based off of this paper, and the purpose was to contrast the curated information that was posted on the Hello BC tourist websites, which is part of Destination BC, and contrast those to the concepts that we explored in the regional geography class, and additionally within the context of representational reality. So feel free to peruse for familiarity, but the main idea in bringing these concepts together is just being able to understand and really critically analyze what we're doing when we model and refer objects using images and words. I know this is like semiotics and we're not all fans of philosophy of knowledge, but I think especially when it comes to actions upon the landscape, it's crucial to understand that our representations hold great power, and how truthful our representations are is situated in systems of knowledge production, and how much can we ever know? So I also realize that the information that's going to be presented to visitors is always going to be a very carefully curated representation of place-based knowledge. What goes unsaid and what's significant is going to vary depending on your locality, your relationship to space, also patterns of globalization and the ongoing effects and legacy of displacement due to colonization. But all of these perceptions are, central to the question of what is landscape as beyond land? What is the process of our cultural inheritance and legacy moving forward? Because as we are impacted by our relationships to each other and to the landscape, we are both acted upon and acting on our perceptions of meaning, of what it means to be in a place. So, my methodology for the assignment. Thank you, Kim. Very good assignment. So I collected a table of words and phrases used in the articles on the Hello BC website. I combined the word count of words that were in plural or active form, and then I categorized the words into associated features of the land or activities, or buzzwords, which would be words like explore or adventure or even history or culture, and of course descriptive language. The introverts in the room are gonna hate me, but before we get to what I found, I would really, really love if everybody could stand up. And what we're gonna do is we're going to have a couple of questions that I'd really like you guys to have a moment to discuss with each other about. And I think it would be a great opportunity if people found other people from universities that they're not affiliated with. So it's probably better to just pull some chairs into circles, and we can maybe have one in each corner of the room. Yeah, feel free to stretch too. Extroverts, lead the way. Make sure that you leave space for everybody to share comfortably, but yeah.
So you're looking for like a larger group, or just amongst one another beside it?
It could be pairs. Try to find somebody that you don't know. And yeah, it might work to have a small group here and a small group there, just so that people, I know in discussions I'm always distracted by overhearing other people, so please and thank you. Much appreciated. Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm going to put up a couple of questions. We have time constraints, of course, so if you can just keep your answers off the top of your head, no wrong answers, just share those. And the first question that I'm going to give you is, share about your favorite place, or one of them if you're like me and can't just pick one. And just, if you can, summarize in one sentence why it's your favorite place. All right, folks. Hopefully everybody got a chance to share. We're going rapid fire here. If you haven't, maybe that's the next person. So next up, hopefully quicker, more quick. What do you think might be the most frequently used word in the article? So this is guessing on my findings, I know, but just in your understanding of what BC tourism looks like, give it your best guess. Or if you're preferring to pick one of four, category, or both. Probably 30, 40, 1 minute, probably a minute. I had another question, but I'm bad at time management, so we're gonna skip it, sorry. But look at that image, I have it on the cover of my title page for my paper. Gorgeous image. Lots to think about in tourism through the ages. Anyway, category frequencies for those of you who made guesses. So yeah, if you want to take a seat again, that'll conclude our discussion for today. And next up, I'm going to show you the most frequently used words. Feel free to peruse. I made a choice in analyzing the data. I excluded words like a and the, for example. But I thought that it was really interesting that the number one cohort of words was around the word you. I think that the centering of the reader in these advertisements is indicative of a culture where, at least according to Hello BC, the highlight of the tour is you. Not necessarily the activities that you might engage in. This is like size by frequency for those of you who, I love word cloud. Not even really the land so much, but your experience of viewing. And I found myself wrestling throughout writing this paper. What does it mean for our relationship with the living landscape if our attention is centered on our individual experience of that process? And now you might say, of course it's about me, I'm the tourist. But I found it at least disconcerting that a lot of the language highlighted the landscape as a photogenic setting for recreation. Particularly with guided or rented access, but also referring to it as a natural wilderness, which of course we know is an interesting framing of our planet in its holistic sense, or at least a unique sort of muse for an artistic or cultural adventure. I found that views were prominent in the literature that I explored, which is of course a little more unofficial than the peer-reviewed. But bringing it back to me, of course, because we are all the center of our own universes, our relationship to physical places, the ones that we pass through or visit or inhabit, these are emerging reflections of our interconnected cultural values and interpersonal practices, I think being aware and hopefully a little bit critical of the way that we participate in these processes what would it mean if we explored the multiplicity of perspective, of entering spaces with awareness of the power and privilege and representation that's being shown to us? In closing, I just wanted to share that I find myself often wondering if I'm more influenced by landscape as a view. I love hiking, I love being outdoors. Being there is an important experience, and I'm sure a lot of you are here in this room because it is for you too. But I do often question whether or not the ecosystems that I'm visiting are more impacted by my being there through the extraction of the funds or the fuel that it takes for me to get there. I think these are questions worth asking at this point in our history. And I just wanted you to know that if you're thinking about that too, you're not alone. So that's pretty much it for me.
Thanks for your presentation. I guess it was a really interesting way of structuring it, right? Inviting us to be part of it. And so I wonder if you could just talk a little bit more about why that choice was important to you in terms of structuring your presentation in that way. And maybe it's influenced by the questions that you're interested or not.
I think honestly it just came about because I thought ideally if we had time we could come back together and share them, because when I thought about doing this presentation all I could think was, wow, I can't wait to hear what people are going to say, and I hope that you will come find me at my poster because I really genuinely love to hear about your reflections. It's not so often that you get a room full of people who are in love with the earth as madly as you are, at least hopefully. So yeah, it was mostly driven by curiosity and a little bit of introversion myself, perhaps. Also feminist geographies, of course, but that goes without saying.
So one sort of annoying question, you mentioned at the outset that this was done in the context of what had come up as the most important terms of the class. And I wondered if you could just give a couple of notes on what are some of those.
Absolutely. I unfortunately had to skip over it, but this was the question that I was going to ask you. So yes, this was last semester for me. Here are my notes from the class after we had spent the semester looking at BC, mostly through an economic geography perspective, because that was the author of the textbook that we utilized, but we drew from other resources too.
So these were the student identified key points to know about British Columbia.
Yeah.
And obviously some of them wouldn't be in a tourist's website, but
which, yeah, I think again brings that question of, well, like which representations are important when you have guests. I think for me the most significant absence on the Hello BC website was unless it was talking about an Indigenous owned or Indigenous cultural space for viewing, there was no mention of which territories you were going to be entering. There were no links to band sites, or I think that this at least comes up for me on all trails as well. Sometimes I find maps that are going onto reserves that I go to the band site and that's not public access. So I think that there's a ways to go in terms of respecting government to government co-belonging. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank you
wrapping us up.
everybody.